There are places in the world where silence feels heavier, as if the earth itself is storing secrets. Stories that were never written down, memories that drifted between generations, and traces of lives that disappeared without leaving a name. These are the hidden stories, echoes from the past that wait for someone to listen. Hidden stories rarely begin with clarity. Instead, they emerge from fragments, objects half buried in soil, markings softened by time, or the faintest suggestion that a place once meant something more. As archaeologists and historians look for meaning in the world's oldest landscapes, they often find themselves standing atop layers of forgotten lives. Beneath quiet fields and modern cities, entire eras remain sealed, untouched. Sometimes it takes only the shift of a stone or the discovery of an unusual artifact to trigger the realization that beneath the familiar lies an older, deeper narrative. One such discovery occurred not in a remote desert or isolated jungle, but beneath the foundations of a humble house in a European village. During routine renovations, workers uncovered a series of stones arranged in a deliberate pattern, too precise to be natural, too symmetrical to ignore. At first glance, it was merely a circle. But as archaeologists stepped in, they recognized the structure as part of an ancient hearth, surrounded by charcoal remnants and pottery shards. This was no ordinary home improvement accident. It was the doorway into a vanished community. The fragments told a story, not through words, but through craft and composition. The pottery bore faint geometric symbols, repeated in sequences that suggested ritual or communication. The charcoal remnants held the traces of plant species no longer common in the region. To the untrained eye, these details seemed insignificant. But together, they whispered of a people whose existence had remained obscured beneath centuries of soil, their identity almost reconstructed through the evidence they left behind. The hearth was more than a relic. It was the anchor of a hidden story, one that revealed how ancient families gathered, ate, shared warmth, and eventually moved on. And yet, even as scholars examined each detail, they understood that the majority of this story would remain beyond reach. For every fragment recovered, countless others remain lost. Hidden stories often rise from silence, and silence itself can be a powerful historian. Across the world, monumental structures, temples, fortresses, and burial chambers stand without reliable written testimony. They were built by hands whose names have disappeared, governed by ideas that can only be guessed at through architecture and remnants of belief. One enigmatic example can be found in the highlands of South America, where stone walls cling to mountainsides with an engineering precision that defies simple explanation. The placement of each rock displays a mastery of weight distribution and an understanding of seismic stability, far ahead of its time. Yet the people who built these walls left no written record of their techniques. Their knowledge survived only through the structures themselves. These communities passed stories orally, myths, genealogies, cosmologies, but oral memory fades with each generation. When borders shifted and languages changed, the meaning of these stories diluted, leaving behind only symbolic shadows. In other regions, stories are hidden not because they were forgotten, but because they were intentionally concealed. Consider the ancient scrolls locked within earthen jars, buried deep in arid caves. Some were preserved, others lost in collapse or erosion. These manuscripts contained the philosophical musings, laws, and histories of people whose voices would have vanished entirely if the desert winds had shifted differently. Hidden stories, then, are not always mysteries of place. Sometimes they are mysteries of intention. What compelled those ancient communities to hide their knowledge? Was it fear, ritual, or the belief that their words were meant for a future reader? Archaeologists continue to pore over these texts, piecing together narratives written by individuals who understood the fragility of memory. Their words carry the weight of survival. Yet even with these documents preserved, scholars know they are reading only a fraction of a story, because for every scroll rediscovered, countless others have crumbled. Across centuries, humanity has crafted objects meant to outlast their creators. Tools, ornaments, weapons, and ceremonial vessels all speak to the daily realities of those who held them. When unearthed, they become storytellers. A bronze amulet discovered beneath a collapse. But despite the details these objects reveal, they also raise questions. Who crafted them? What emotions guided their creation? What stories were shared among those who held them? The answers remain locked within the objects themselves, accessible only through interpretation. And interpretation is never complete. Part 4. Cities that Vanished. Perhaps the most profound hidden stories are those of entire civilizations that rose, flourished, and disappeared, leaving behind little more than foundations and faint memories. In dense jungles, cities once filled with markets, courts, and temples now lie buried beneath roots and moss. Their roads are obscured by layers of fallen leaves, their plazas overtaken by vines. For centuries, these cities remained invisible, concealed by nature's persistence. Only in recent decades have archaeologists used aerial mapping technologies to peer beneath the forest canopy. What they found reshaped our understanding of ancient engineering. Sprawling networks of streets, agricultural zones, organized with near geometric discipline, and water systems capable of supporting huge populations. These discoveries revealed societies far more complex and interconnected than previously imagined. And yet, the reasons for their disappearance remain speculative. Climate change, shifting trade routes, conflict, resource depletion. Each theory provides a potential path, but none offers certainty. The people who abandoned these cities left no clear explanations, and the jungle quickly erased their footprints. As a result, their stories hover between evidence and imagination. Urban disappearance is not limited to tropical landscapes. Across deserts, along coastlines, and on mountain plateaus, the ruins of lost communities hint at vibrant eras now reduced to stone and speculation. Some collapsed suddenly, others gradually. Some were destroyed by natural forces, others by human ones. In each case, what remains is only a fraction of what once existed. Every ruined wall, every pillar, every displaced stone carries a portion of a story, but never the entire story. And that partial knowledge, that gap between evidence and conclusion, is where mystery endures. Part 5. The Human Thread. Hidden stories are not limited to ancient ruins or archaeological puzzles. Sometimes they come from everyday people whose lives unfold without documentation. In small villages, isolated settlements, or transient communities, personal histories often vanish with the individuals who lived them. A forgotten journal found in a seaside cabin. A family photograph tucked behind the frame of a larger portrait. A pair of handmade shoes preserved in a trunk long after their owner passed away. These items are not tied to monumental civilizations, yet they hold the weight of human experience. A single entry in an old diary can reveal more about a community's fears, customs, and aspirations than a century of official records. The handwriting might be unsteady, the ink faded, but the voice behind the words echoes across time. In these moments, we glimpse the lives of those who never made it into history books. Consider a set of musical instruments discovered in the attic of a collapsed farmhouse. Their craftsmanship suggested cultural influences from distant regions, clues that the family who lived there interacted with travelers from far beyond their small village. It was a reminder that even remote communities were part of broader networks of exchange, ideas, and traditions. Yet without the surviving instruments, that connection would have remained unknown. Such personal artifacts enrich our understanding of history, filling gaps that larger monuments overlook. They demonstrate that hidden stories are not only about the extraordinary, but also about the ordinary, the quiet lives that shape the world in subtle ways. Then Part 6, the unfinished narrative. Every story unearthed, whether from soil, stone, or personal belongings, adds a thread to the vast tapestry of human history. But the tapestry itself is incomplete. Countless threads remain buried, broken, or lost entirely. Historians speak of the problem of silence. The knowledge that for every story discovered, many more remain hidden. Cultures without written records, communities displaced by conflict, individuals whose lives were never documented. These silences shape our understanding just as much as the stories we uncover. Modern science offers tools to fill some of these gaps. DNA analysis reveals migrations long forgotten. Satellite imagery reveals buried structures invisible from the ground. Radiocarbon dating places objects into precise timelines. But even with these advancements, the mysteries persist. For instance, ancient trade networks once thought limited to small regions now appear far more expansive. Chemical analysis of pottery reveals minerals from distant lands. Beads found in a northern settlement contain materials sourced from the tropics. Metal tools show forging techniques that traveled across continents. These discoveries raise new questions about contact, exchange, and knowledge sharing among ancient peoples. But again, the fullest stories remain hidden. We know trade routes existed, but we do not know who traveled them. We know ideas spread across vast distances, but we cannot identify the individuals who carried them. Technology provides clarity, but clarity does not always translate into narrative. And so, hidden stories continue to shape the edges of what we know, reminding us that history is never finished. It is an evolving landscape, shifting as new evidence surfaces. Across continents and centuries, humanity leaves traces, some deliberate, others accidental. A carved symbol, a buried foundation, a handwritten note folded inside a forgotten book. These fragments form the mosaic of hidden stories that lie quietly beneath our present world. Some will be discovered, others will remain concealed forever. But in every silent artifact and every unrecorded moment, there is a reminder. The world is built not only on what we know, but on everything we do not know. Everything waiting beneath the surface, everything still concealed, everything just beyond the reach of certainty. Perhaps the greatest mystery of hidden stories is not what they reveal, but what they leave behind. And somewhere, in the layers of earth or in the corners of an abandoned room, another story waits, unseen, unresolved, and ready for whoever chooses to listen next.